How would you define yourself? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? A wallflower or the life of the party? A leader or a follower? What if, just maybe, you're a little bit of all of those things?
I was definitely that kid who is like in his room all the time, not out in the playground. I was definitely a wallflower. Today I'm pretty extrovert and, definitely comfortable around people, but I was extremely shy. And actually, it kind of sad, but I ate alone pretty much every day from kindergarten through 12th grade. And so I just didn't have any friends and sort of just didn't know how to fit in.
That's Mehta, the CEO of Gainsight. And if you think the kid he just described doesn't sound like someone who is destined to be leading a major company, you're not alone. Like everyone, Nick has grown and changed and developed into the person he is today. And now, as a CEO, he's helping lead a company and its employees as they grow and change as well. There are always exciting things happening in the world of small business. The news that grabs the headlines, though, are always the highlights, the overnight successes, the billion-dollar IPOs, the massive exits. But just like your Instagram feed, that's never the whole story. Let's look deeper than the headlines and the press photos. Underneath all of that is the real work building something valuable and lasting. Don't get me wrong, I love crazy success stories and can be drawn into those big flashy tales just as much as the next person. But we all know that what's more important than the destination is how you get there. It's the struggles you have to overcome and the insights you learn along the way that make you who you are. So those are the stories we're telling. It's raw, it's honest, and maybe it's exactly what you need to hear. I'm Hillary Georgie, and this is The Journey. Nick's love for technology started at a young age. Growing up, he was surrounded by all manner of computers and gadgets, from devices at the cutting edge to those generations past their prime. His dad worked for many major tech companies before venturing off to start a small company of his own. Nick's dad worked hard and supported his family through his small business, but his dreams were always a little bit bigger, and he especially dreamed big for his children.
My dad was an entrepreneur. I think he always hoped to do something bigger in his life. And, I guess sometimes whatever we don't get done in our lives, we hope to pass on to our children. And so I think he definitely had a lot of hopes for me. I remember him showing me a cover of Time magazine sometime in 1985 or something. And Bill Gates was on the cover and this, founder of CEO of Microsoft. And I think my dad said, I hope you can do something like this someday.
Becoming the next Bill Gates was a lot to put on the shoulders of a wallflower like Nick. But the young tech lover always believed that there was a path for him, even if it was a bit more modest than founding Microsoft. Throughout his youth, Nick let his entrepreneurial spirit guide him. He looked for every opportunity to break out of his shell and put his skills and knowledge to the test. And for the young tycoon, the first hard lesson in business came in grade school.
I was like the Elon Musk of the era, much less successful. I think we were in 4th grade or 5th grade, and myself and some classmates decided we would take solar cells and attach them to rechargeable batteries and put them in cars. And I don't think that actually works, by the way. I don't think the solar cells you could put on cars in the 1980s would do anything, but somehow we thought that would work. I think the idea was ill-fated because in addition to the fact that technically it wouldn't work, I think we had a falling out in our first board meeting, quote unquote, of the other 4th graders. And one person ended up firing another. Allegedly, I may have fired one of my classmates. I'm not sure, but that was my first entrepreneurial venture.
Although that first company fell apart, young Nick was undeterred. He kept learning and growing. In college, he formed a company that sold golf clubs on the internet. It taught him the process for raising money and gave him a taste of what it meant to work with and lead a team. Then, after he graduated, he ran an enterprise cloud computing startup for more than 4 years. That was his first experience as a CEO, and it's where he started to really formulate his ideas on what it meant to be a leader.
For some tech CEOs, I think leadership is the necessary evil, and they love the product or the technology or whatever. I love the product and technology. What I really love is leading people. To summarize my philosophy on leadership, probably one of the core things is embracing a style of leadership that's authentic to who I am.
But being authentic in all situations is easier said than done. When the hard times come, as they always do for every business, it's easy to lose sight of your values and goals. Being a leader means knowing how to navigate those difficult times just as well as the great times. After the break, Nick explains how and when he learned that lesson, and he talks about the ways he's living as an authentic leader now.
It takes a lot to grow a business, but one thing's for certain. You've got to have a laser focus on the customer. That's why we use Salesforce Essentials at Mission every day. With Essentials, your small business has access to the same CRM tools driving results for some of the most successful companies on earth. Think Adidas, Amazon, T-Mobile, Toyota, Intuit, Marriott, and tens of thousands more. Track your business health by measuring sales, emails, customer satisfaction, and custom metrics. Go to essentials.salesforce.com to start your 2-week trial today.
Being a leader, Nick says, is all about setting the tone. And as he was building Gainsight, his number one priority was establishing that right tone for the company. As he began the process, Nick found himself facing 3 key tasks. The first was setting the identity of the company, which he defines as values and purpose. The second was setting up systems and processes to support that identity. This included defining when to have team meetings and what KPIs mattered for each person. And the final, most difficult task is setting the emotion of the company.
The third part is kind of creating the emotion of the company day to day. And this is when people ask me, what's the biggest challenge as a CEO? This third thing is really what I refer to as emotional composure. The idea that as your company gets bigger, even if overall the company's doing well, on every given day, some things are going well, some things aren't. You're going to hear about all kinds of problems, right? Employee problems, customer problems, product problems, investor problems. And you have all these problems. And I actually think one universal trait amongst most successful leaders is emotional composure. They can ride the highs and the lows, and they don't get too worked up, and they just keep moving forward. And they realize that their job is to deal with challenges.
Nick knows a thing or two about challenges. And in fact, it's because of the challenges he faced earlier in his career that he believes he's become a successful leader now at Gainsight.
My last company was providing a kind of a cloud-based service that helped businesses save and archive their email. So a lot of companies have to save their email for legal purposes. And kind of a crisis situation we dealt with was the day or maybe the 36 hours that our entire system crashed and nothing worked. All of our servers went down, and everyone's experienced some time when their technology didn't work. But when you have all your customers not able to use your service, it is a massive problem. And thousands of emails and angry calls and trying to figure out what to do and not sure why it's not working and trying different things. And so the stress around that, something I still remember to this day. But everyone has those over time. Actually, frankly, one of the things that gave me is we got through it. And now anytime we run into a situation in my current company, I'm like, wow, we got through that last thing in my last company. We'll be able to get through this. Whatever it is, it's not as bad as that last thing. So the benefit if you're going through a big problem is next time, small problems won't seem as big.
With that idea as his mantra, Nick got to work creating an award-winning culture at Gainsight. Literally, the company has been named in numerous outlets as one of the best places to work in the country. The fact that Nick and everyone in the company lives by the values they laid out in the very beginning has earned them the respect and trust of those who come into the fold. As a leader, Nick takes pride in these reviews. And for him, the way to maintain the culture, even in the face of a crisis or when you have to deliver bad news, always comes back to that third challenge of building a company, emotional composure.
Going back to that emotional composure, you definitely, as a leader, have to be able to step out of a really bad news meeting or call or whatever and go right into a presentation to a whole company about how things are great, right? And then go back into a bad news thing. And if you cannot handle that emotional switching, honestly, I think it's going to be challenging for you as a leader. So how do you get that? To me, it's outside of work. A lot of people as CEOs try to talk about working all the time and grinding it out. I'm a huge believer in really trying to be a fully integrated human being. I sleep 8 hours a day pretty much every day. I spend the entire weekend with my wife and kids and really switch off. And I never as much as I want, but I try to work out and do yoga and things like that. So getting that emotional composure so I can be super present during those times that are really tough. That's sort of one thing that I think is really important. And then the other one is when you're making those decisions, when we're making those decisions that are tough ones, where it's not easy and there's not an obvious choice of what's right or wrong, we always bring up our values. So success for all means drive success for all of our stakeholders. And when we're making a decision, we're like, well, how would this drive success for our customers and our employees and their family? And if they were here, what would they say? And really try to bring those values to light in every decision we make. That's something that we really try to practice.
Gainsight has clearly benefited from Nick's leadership. The more than $50 million in revenue and glowing employee reviews are proof of that. But how does Nick feel about the job he's done? He's still growing and changing.
I think there's so much opportunity for me to grow. I mean, I tell my team this when I give them feedback too. I kind of think like when somebody says you have an opportunity to grow, it's such a gift because it means that your best days are not behind you, right? If you have totally you're perfect, that means that you've peaked. I'm so thankful, at least in my own eyes, that I haven't peaked. I think I have a lot more to go. One of the biggest things you can do as a leader to develop yourself and to develop your company is to truly develop your personal self. So whether it's investing in a coach or even doing yoga or meditation or whatever lets you understand yourself better and what makes you tick and why you do the things you do, I think you'll be more effective as a leader. The expression for meditation is being able to watch yourself. So if you see yourself getting angry about something, being able to observe, why did I get angry? In a meeting this morning, I didn't get angry, but I was kind of a little bit frustrated with something that happened. And then I thought about, okay, why did I get frustrated? Well, it's because I'm insecure about whether we're really doing enough in this area or not. Why am I insecure? Because, I'm not sure if I'm really living up to the expectations of person A, B, and C, right? And being able to have that kind of conversation with yourself and understand why you're doing the way things are doing, I think it's a big service to your team if you're self-aware.
No matter how self-aware or how much work Nick does on himself, though, he feels like it's not enough. He never became Bill Gates on the cover of Time magazine. So in his mind, he's still got a long way to go. But he's working on that too. He's trying to be okay with the fact that perfection is an impossible goal. And he encourages everyone in his company and the people he mentors to keep growing, but always remain aware that who you are is good enough.
A couple months ago, my wife and I, we have friends over once a month for this sort of discussion group where we don't talk about small talk. We just ask a powerful question every month and we talk about that question. So the question of the month my wife asked was, what if you accomplished it would make you happy toward the end of your life? And everyone went around to answer their question about something with their kids or their parents or something else. And I answered, going back to my dad's magazine cover, nothing, I'll forever be dissatisfied, partially tongue in cheek. And I joked that unless somebody decides I'm so great that they decide to put my face on Mount Rushmore, or they decide I was so great that they decided to rename the moon after me, like the Nick outside instead of the moon. And obviously this is all kind of joking, tongue in cheek. A friend from that dinner later on got me a gift, and actually 3 gifts. She got me a framed copy of me photoshopped onto Mount Rushmore, me photoshopped onto the moon, obviously joking. And then she got me this note. I'll read it to you because it's really beautiful. She says, you are enough. You are born being enough. Nothing you say, do, create, achieve, fail, fear, or conquer will ever add to or subtract from who you truly are. And I think that's a beautiful way to kind of close, which is I'll never feel like I've achieved enough. And probably a lot of people listening, you probably deal with this too, right? Have you achieved enough versus your peers, for your age, versus your friends, versus the people next door? But the truth is we all are enough. We were born enough. The more we can understand that, I think the more we can actually achieve, paradoxically.
Being committed to self-improvement means that success is an always moving target. Bill Gates didn't stop after being on the cover of Time magazine. And Nick hasn't stopped improving Gainsight's culture after being named one of the best places to work. What's important aren't the checkpoints along your path, it's the journey itself. And for Nick, from awkward wallflower to outstanding CEO, it's his lessons, the ones that are uniquely his own, that have given him the tools he needed to be the leader he is today. Or, in the words of the scholar Warren Bennis, becoming a leader is synonymous with becoming yourself. It is precisely that simple, and it is also that difficult.
Succeeding as a startup, solo founder, or any small business is an uphill battle. It takes the right mindset and the right tools. That's why we're thrilled to partner with Salesforce Essentials to bring you the journey. Managing one podcast, let alone a whole media studio, is a challenge to say the least. But Essentials makes it easy to maintain relationships and grow our business. With Essentials, your startup has access to the same CRM driving insights and results for the most successful companies in the world. Use unrivaled Salesforce technology to track customers, sales, emails, and more. You'll know where your business is and where it's headed as you chart the path for your journey. We love using Essentials, and we know you will too. Go to essentials.salesforce.com to start your 2-week trial today.